Today I'm at the Birkenau in Putten. I'm going to talk with Tony Johnson about fishing the Waggler. So let's go over to Tony. Tony, if you talk about Waggler fishing, what's very important if you try to catch some fish with a Waggler?
Feed. Is your feeding. In England we fish really aggressively, so we put quite a lot of pellets in to draw the carp into the swim, and then we start regulating the feed by just slowing down the numbers of pellets we're putting in, to even just casting without even feeding at all. So yeah, our way of pellet Waggler fishing in England is a little bit different to over here, because we're really aggressive at times with what we do. We can get through, I don't know what it is, how many pints in a litre, guys?
Well, I don't know.
You don't know either.
You're the expert. I'm only asking the dumb questions. And this is the first one.
There's only a little one.
Let's take a look in the net.
There you
it's
go.
A nice one.
Perfectly in the scissors, look. Yeah, we can get through quite a few pellets in a day. We've been over here now, pellet Waggler fishing, doing clinics with the guys. And just to give you an idea of what we were feeding, the fishery pellets here, the bags. On Sunday I got through 6 bags of these.
Yes.
So
yes, at the moment we are at the Birkenau in the Netherlands, and of course you have to use the special pellets from the Birkenau. Let's take a look at what kind of pellet do you use? A 6mm or a 4mm?
No, it's 6mm. Try and get away with a 6mm, but within the bags, within the pellets here, obviously you get the different sizes or different lengths. You can see that one there. I can go in there, but in there you can see the smaller one there. You try and pick out the bigger one.
Okay, and do you always use the black ones, because there are a couple of red ones in too?
The black ones we find are better, because the fish are always looking up. They always look up in the water for the food, and the black seems to silhouette better than the red. So yeah, it's just finding the biggest black pellet you can in the bag, putting it on the band. They just seem to be more visible than the smaller. Don't get me wrong, sometimes using the smaller pellets can be better, but I always seem to just pick out the bigger black ones. Bigger pellet, more visible really, guys. So,
okay, and if you're talking about Wagglers, I can see a lot of Wagglers on this, on your feeding platform.
They're different Wagglers for different scenarios. It depends on what how the carp are feeding really. Sometimes you can go with a really heavy float, because it's about the noise when the float hits the water. Some days they want a lot of noise, so you'd probably end up using some floats like these. They make a lot of noise, they make a big plop when they land on the water, and the carp home in on the noise. But other days they get wary of the noise. They've seen it all before. They get to hear different Wagglers, different noise, and they know a big plop is. They get wary, and they back off, and they don't like it. Some days you go to the same lake, and they like the noise. It's just on the day. But the bigger, warier carp, they know a big plop normally sounds danger to them. So you just change. You need to change your Waggler throughout the day. It's no good keeping the same Waggler on if you're not catching. You need to do something. So it could well be down to noise. It could be to depth. We'll come into depth in a minute, searching through through the layers.
Oh, that's exactly the reason that you have a lot of different Wagglers, I think. Yeah, because we talked about these ones, but in what situations do you use the other ones?
The other ones they land a lot softer, guys. They don't make as much noise, so you can make them land softer, so they make hardly any noise at all, just a little gentle plop. And sometimes the fish prefer that, because they don't really get it, or they don't know that it's a big Waggler. A heavier Waggler makes a bigger noise, and some, like I say, they don't like it. Putting on a smaller, slimmer, lighter, something like, I mean that's quite a big water-filled one there, but something like this, or I've even got a really, really tiny one. They make different noises, different sounds. and sometimes landing them quieter can make a huge difference. So I would never ever just think that's my favourite waggler. Yeah, you know, some people say that's my favourite waggler, it catches fish. Yeah, it does catch fish, but on certain days they don't like that noise, so you need to keep changing your wagglers, really. Find out what waggler works best on the day.
Okay, so every day it could be different.
Every day's different, yeah. Yeah, it's no different on any venue, whether you're pole fishing, feeder fishing, every day's different.
Okay, and if you talk about waggler fishing, what is key if you're using the waggler? Feeding the pellets?
Feeding the pellets is, yeah, we constantly feed pellets, but it's trying to regulate your feed as well. At the minute I'm feeding really heavily. Just trying to get carp into the swim, and once they're in there, they just start swirling, which means they're in the swim, but you're firing in sort of like, at the moment, I mean, we'll do it this way. I mean, look, there must be 30 pellets there, so there must be 30 pellets in that hand while I'm firing out. And when you're waggler fishing, you've got one pellet, so if I've catapulted out or shoot out 30 pellets, and I put my one pellet in there, there's 31 pellets. So the chances of a carp finding my one pellet is a 1 in 30 chance. So we get them in the swim, get them swirling, competing for the food, and then we back off. So all of a sudden, I'll only be shooting, what's that, 8 or 9 pellets, maybe even 2 or 3. Because all of a sudden there's less food and they just get competing, and they're looking for the food. They want to beat the mate or their friends to that 1 or 2 pellets that are now coming in, and that's when you stand the better chance of catching one. But it's also depth, really. Depth is another one. If you have sort of like 5 or 6 casts and you haven't had a carp, you need to do something. So is it the float? Maybe not. Is it the depth?
Okay,
so,
but if you go waggler fishing, do you have a certain standard point or something if you start fishing with a waggler?
Yeah, I just quickly grab this, guys. I mean, I normally fish sort of like 600-700 millimeters, say, yes, 750 millimeters starting depth. But I haven't had I've been, what, 3 or 4 casts since we've been filming, since I had that last fish, and I've had nothing. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to, look, tiny movements, tiny depth change. Nothing big, nothing drastic. Just, what was that, 100 millimeter, going shallower. So we'll just give that one a quick go. Before you cast out, you need to shoot pellets. You need to catapult some pellets out.
Okay, dus first you shoot and then you cast out?
Always.
Okay.
Always shoot some pellets, because the pellets hit the water, the carp hone in on them, and where you've catapulted the pellets in, you aim to get the float in and amongst that into the rings. When the pellets you've catapulted out, they form rings on the surface. You try and get your waggler into that feed area. I think I'm going to have to slow down the feed there a little bit.
Okay, and if you talk about the rest of your fishing gear, what kind of rod do you use for these kind of fishing?
It's a personal preference. Yeah, some people like, I'm going to have to do it English for you here, aren't I? In feet and inches. So yeah, some people
That's no problem, you can also tell it in inches.
Is like a 12-foot rod, which is probably, what's that, 3.6 meters,
yes,
12 foot?
3.60.
Yeah. Some people for 11 foot, you'll have to tell them that one, guys.
11 foot is 3.30 meters.
There you go, you're better than me at this.
Yeah, I'm a Dutchman, of course.
Some people like a 10 foot.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's a personal preference. Me, I like a 12-foot rod. That's just me. I prefer a 12-foot rod.
Okay, what kind of fishing line do you use?
The fishing line that I use on here is, it's a low stretch monofilament, and but it's always
difficult fishing and videotaping, of course.
Who cares? We're having fun. We're having fun, guys. We're having fun. Yeah, it's a 4.5 kilo
Okay.
strength line. In England that's £10,
Yeah.
but the line diameter is only 0.20.
Yeah.
Yeah,
As small as possible.
yeah, as small as possible, because it just helps with the line coming off the reel. It's not a thick, even though it's £10, it's thin, so that means when you cast, it's easier to cast. I can use really small floats.
Okay, and if you talk about your hook line, is it the same line?
No, that's an 019, so it's slightly
Slightly thinner.
and it's probably a 3.4 kilo, £8, £7, £8 line. So if I do get a hook pull or a break, the chances are it's going to break the hook leg before the main line.
And if you talk about your hook size?
Hook size, yeah, there'll be people that'll be shocked about this,
No,
because the hook size, I always use a big hook, and I've been speaking to some Dutch guys when I'm in England. What size do you use? Even guys over on the clinics that we've been doing. There you go. I use a size 12 or 14.
12 or 14?
12 or 14.
Okay.
I just find the carp find it harder to deal with, guys. So yeah, I use a 12 or a 14 hook. A lot of people over here, they use a size 16.
Yeah, that's right. You like small hooks?
Small hooks, yeah. So the guys on the clinics, they were using size 16s, and they were losing, quite a few fish. And I got them to change to put on a 14, and they seem to lose more fish because the carp find it hard to, like I say, the carp find them hard to deal with, and they just they work better.
Okay.
But it's a perfect personal preference. But for me, 14 really is ideal.
Okay. And are there any special tricks if you don't catch any fish?
Yeah, there's quite a few you can use. There's quite a few. We've already mentioned about regulating your feed. So I think we had a discussion, didn't we, before? And it's like you shoot loads of pellets, yeah, and it's like laying a buffet table out. You're going somewhere, there's a big buffet table, and you go and get your plate of food, and then you go back and you go back to the buffet table, and all of a sudden there's nothing there. There's hardly anything there. So you're trying to pick out what you want, what's left. So it's, again, by doing that with the pellets, you're firing out and then you're reducing your pellets, reducing the pellets, get them competing for the odd one or two. And all of a sudden, you probably need to feed really heavy again. So again, you're just loading up the buffet table again for them, then you start reducing the feed. But there is another little thing to do. If there's so many fish in your swim, even when you're reducing your feed down, when they're competing, is not to feed at all. Not completely not feed, like stop feeding, is when you cast, don't feed. Just 2 times. So you just literally casting your float out. So your pellet is the only one in the water. And that can be a massive thing. A massive thing, because there's just your one pellet. There's no other pellets for them to go for. So yeah, it's changing things up, changing your feed, changing your depth, changing your flow.
It sounds so easy.
Fishing is easy, we just make it complicated, guys, don't we? Fishing is easy, we just complicate it.
Okay.
But it's once you get the right flow and how they want it, the noise, you have to keep constantly changing your depth. That's one thing you need to do. Don't just rely on the same depth, because you can probably catch 2 or 3 at one depth and all of a sudden you'll have 4 or 5 casts without nothing on that depth that you've set. So you just have to go a little bit deeper or a little bit shallower. 100 millimeters, 50 millimeters even.
Okay.
It can make a big difference.
And what is the moment that you change your tactic? If you don't catch any fish, or?
Yeah, I would say don't catch any fish. It's you catching and then you don't catch, then obviously something's changed. So you have to change, try something different. You have to change. Like I say, the big one for me really is not can be the float, but when you found the right float for for that day, whether they want it quiet or loud, is literally it's going to be your feed and then also your depth. going up and down a little bit. I mean, when the people get the wrong idea, when the fish are really shallow, I'll bring this in, they think because the fish are really shallow, they have to fish sort of like that deep. You with me?
Yeah.
But the problem with fishing that shallow, yes it does work, is if my thumb is the float, yeah, and fishing that, I can't say how we're going to do this, guys, let's have some bit of fun. So my thumb is the float, the pellet hits the water there, and it's only got a short fall. Are you with me?
Yeah, I understand.
And the carp are literally chasing the pellets down. Once the pellet comes to the end of the fall underneath the float, it becomes a static bait.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden that's another little trigger that the carp will go, oh, hang on a minute, I'm not happy with that one, because all the other pellets are falling through the water, and that one's unnatural to the others falling through the water.
So it's important to have a hook line of about 60 centimeters at least.
Yes, yeah, 60 centimeters, maybe 550 centimeters, but going beyond that, going any shallow, yes you will catch, but once that hook bait becomes static, it becomes harder. So I know over here you guys use, is it the ball float?
Yeah.
And they cast it out and you're feeding pellets around it. It's a good example. It's those pellets are falling through the water, but your pellet is static.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes, you will catch fish. People do catch fish on it, but we're keeping your pellet moving, yeah, and falling through the water. That's why we're so quick. We cast, we count to sort of like 7 or 8. We know by then the pellet's at the bottom of the drop, it's now becoming static, and it's lost its effectiveness. It's not what we want. So that's why we're really busy in England with our Waggler fishing. We constantly keep moving, changing depths. Sorry.
Fish on.
No, we don't want this one. I think we might have foul hooked this one.
Yeah, well, we had an agreement that you wouldn't catch any fish in this video, too.
No, this was definitely foul hooked.
Is this the next one?
So yeah, it's that's what I mean. There's so many fish in my swim now that I just picked up to reel in, and this one's been foul hooked. So we're going to start cutting back on the feed now and try and, I'm lying, it's actually snapped it up as I was picked up the rod.
Well, he's hooked the right way.
Is it? Yeah, he's actually hooked the right way. I thought we foul hooked this one, but there's
This is a nice one too.
Yeah, there's so many fish in the swim now. So we're just going to cut back on the feed a little bit. They're chasing around in the swim. They're not actually, they're there, but they're not actually settling.
Oh, it's easy to unhook them.
Yeah. Get that reed out the way.
Are you using barbless hooks?
Always.
Yeah.
Always. There you go. Just keep them in the net.
Well, that's a nice one.
Yeah, just a little common. Lovely.
Constant changing.
Yeah, you need to constantly change. Don't just sit there, catch 1 or 2, 3 or 4, you know, and then they just disappear on you. They've done something, because they're probably chasing the pellets further down. Just they want a longer fall on that. Maybe the float's even, you might even have to change your float to get it to land softer. But I don't know whether you can see this, guys, down here. The big one when pellet waggler fishing is you need separation. Yeah, you don't want the pellet and the float. I can't even do it because there's a pendulum. But you don't want it to land together like that.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay, you need the pellet to be beyond.
Yeah.
Are you with me? So you need the pellet to be further out than the float when it hits the water.
Yeah, the hook line has to be stretched.
Yeah, by doing that you just put your finger on the reel as you cast. Just before the float hits the water, you cast, you're watching the float, and just before it hits the water, you put your finger on the spool, and that'll throw the pellet forward. You with me? You literally put the brakes on.
Okay.
That'll slow the pellet waggler down, and it will throw the pellet away from the waggler. If it lands together, yes, you'll probably get the odd one, but it gives you a better chance, because it just looks like a single pellet that's now falling through the water rather than being against the float. this is getting silly. They're just everywhere out there now.
Okay, and do you have some special tips for the viewers?
Yeah, one big one I haven't mentioned at the moment. We'll have a quick recap, guys. I mean, the real one is your float changing your depths. But a big one, I'm guilty of it sometimes on the odd occasion, is leaving the same pellet on the hook too long. Even if you're not catching, you know, you keep casting with the same pellet on the hook. I don't know whether I've got one on the side.
But do you always use the same pellets if you're shooting pellets and your hook pellets? Are they always the same, or do you?
You can change them. You can change them to different colours pellets. I mean, we've got red ones in here, for example, but you can get red pellets, yellow pellets. But the big one is when you're firing out the pellets, they're nice and hard. I've picked this big, and it's an extreme example, but you can leave one on the hook too long, keep casting the same pellet, and it goes all soft and grey, and you're firing in these lovely hard pellets, and all of a sudden there's this horrible grey looking one. Are you with me? And the carp, yeah, they do see that, and it's something, again, it's something different to what you're feeding and what's falling through the water.
So it's very important. Wise to change your.
Yeah, I would change the hook pellet, I don't know, quite regularly. If you're catching, you don't have to. You're with me? Yeah. But even if you've caught a fish and the pellet is still on the band, don't cast that pellet out. Put a fresh one on. Definitely put a fresh one on every time, because that's what you're casting out and catapulting out. So yeah, they're the main tips. Is work out how the fish are feeding, what they, you know, how many pellets you're putting in. Change your depths. What depths are they fishing at? I mean, again, we've had what, 4 or 5 casts there without nothing. So this sounds extreme now, what I'm going to do, but I'm going to move that right up. But yet the carp are swirling on the pellets out there. So all I'm doing now is creating a longer drop.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's a longer fall for that pellet to go through the water. I mean, I've just dropped it in there. The line's still between the float and the hook there. It's still on the surface. It's now gone. So I'm just extending that fall. A bit more time before it gets down to the bottom, and I have to bring it back in. So yes, I can afford to leave it out there a little bit longer this time, just because I've obviously gone deeper. So there's a lot of things you can do. The other one is trying to keep your feed in this roughly in the same area. Are you with me? Don't scatter it all over. You're trying to get your feed into a certain area of the swim all the while. I don't want it over there. I want to try and keep it in the same area if I can. But another little tip is, even when you're shooting pellets, you get an odd rogue pellet. I'll either go off to the left or off to the right. So sometimes it does pay you to cast just to the left of your feed or just to the right of your feed, because your one pellet is like the rogue pellet, and sometimes they can be the bigger fish, because the bigger fish, they back off the feed a little bit. They'll sit either side of it or at the back of it.
They're much more careful.
They know. They're old fish. They know, don't they? They're the wary ones.
They let the young guys go first.
Yeah, the little silly ones, they'll go in and mop up. They're the ones you catch. But yeah, it's the bigger ones. Yeah, sometimes they tend to sit at the back or the side of the feed. And we did it on the clinic with the guys, and we got them feeding and everything. I said two or three times, I said to them, just cast to the left of the feed or the right of the feed. They've done that, and it's gone straight away, and it's been sort of like a 4 or 5 kilo fish. Are you with me? So yeah, the bigger ones they do back off the feed a little bit. And there we go.
Fish on?
No, it was a foul looker. So yeah, it's keep changing. Don't use the same float all the while. Yeah, some days you'll pick up a float and you'll start catching, and you'll catch really, really well, and all of a sudden you won't catch. So don't be afraid, and you're changing your depths, but you still can't catch. Change your float, because the noise might be different. I'm going to change this float in a moment, because there's something going on at the moment. There's a change that's happened, and I'm going to go to an even smaller float and try and land it even quieter if I can. There's something, and I'll try and put it into practice what I've been saying.
And can you also give us some info about all these floats, because they're all totally different floats? Are they all floating, or are they sinking, or?
No, some.
He's on. Oh, then we have to wait for this question.
No, you're okay. Yeah, the floats are all different. They do different jobs. We've spoken about these. The big ones that are different are these ones here. These are slow sinking, so we're going to have fun while I'm playing this and while we're talking, but yeah, these are slow sinking floats here.
First let us get this fish in the net, and then we talk about floats.
Yeah, we can talk about floats, yeah.
I think that will be better, because this is a nice carp. This is a very nice way to catch some fish.
Yeah, it's lovely, isn't it?
You don't need so much fishing gear or difficult equipment.
No, you can, if you come home from work and you can come down here where we are now, or any other, there we go.
He's gone.
It's gone.
That's also part of the game.
That's always, yeah, that's always part of the game.
Well, maybe there's a little time to talk about these floats.
Yeah, that's no problem. I'll just hook that on there, get it out of the way before we start talking. Obviously, on the video you see me, I'm using one of these, but obviously it's a smaller version of these. So if I can lay that on there, if the rod will allow it, the different size between the two.
Okay, what is the advantage of these floats? Because there is water in it?
They're water in there, you get them to land soft. You know, they make a little noise,
yeah,
but not as much as these floats. Are you with me? Just because of the shape.
Yeah.
And obviously these, I mean, look at that one, that's even smaller than the one I'm using now.
Yeah.
So that'll make even less noise, but you really have to punch that one out, because obviously it doesn't weigh as much. But that can be a real benefit at the moment, and to be truthful, that's what I was going to change to. But we'll stop and we'll talk about floats, and then I'm just going to keep shooting while we're talking, just to keep the fish in there.
Yeah, because what kind of floats are these?
These are slow sinking floats. But they're water filled.
Ah, so you can change the weight of the...
change, yes. So these ones here are really quick, simple. I can swap from a normal Waggler float that we've been using to one of these. And basically what this does is, that was a classic case there. These have got a little rubber washer on there, because that seals it. Okay, so never, if you get one of these, never lose that. And basically all you do is literally just fill it up with water, screw that back on, and then I can clip that straight on there. But is that ready to start fishing with? We don't know. So you need to put it onto your line, and basically what you're looking for to do, you can put little tiny drops in, and you can get it to sink. If my finger's the water, you can actually get it sit on the surface, and eventually the pellet will fall through the water, and it will get to the bottom, and you can get it to sink under the weight of the pellet. I think there's other floats in there on the Dutch market. I think Peter does a similar thing now.
Oh, Peter the Bull floats.
But yeah, he does similar things as well.
But can you give us the most important things if you talk about Waggler fishing?
There's three things are very key. Is the noise of your float, when it lands in the water. In fact, there's four actually. I'm going to give you four.
Four?
I'm going to give you four.
Oh, we get one for free?
You get one for free, yeah. One is the noise of the Waggler landing in the water. The second one is your feed. 5-6 pellets at a time. It could be great on some days. But control your feed. Feed heavy if you need to, but then control your feed. Third one is depth. Don't stay at the same depth, because them carp will move up and down. And with me, it's you staying in touch with them by longer drops, shallower and everything. And the fourth one, and the boys on the clinical know what I'm saying about this, because I keep banging on them, keep sort of like shouting at them about it, is the separation of the pellet to your float. It gives you a better opportunity, and demonstrating that with the guys on the clinics, and when they got the separation between the float and the pellet, they had a better chance and they caught straight away. So yeah, they're the four for me: noise of the float, feed, depth, separation of the pellet and float.
So far the interview with Tony about Waggler fishing. He is continuing catching fish and I have to go because I have to catch some fish myself. We see each other in the future, maybe, you never know.